In this lesson, we're going to learn how to make a planner in Procreate and just keep it in Procreate. You can keep it at the top of your gallery, and that will keep it front of mind if you use Procreate a lot like I do. And I'm going to be showing you the basic skills for just this basic planner, and then you can use those skills to make it as advanced and customized as you want with different sections. Like here I have a page for just kind of playing around with some ideas or notes. These would be notes for specific months. You can decorate the background however you wish. And I provided you with stamps to make all the calendar parts except for the grid. I'm going to be showing you manually how to do the grid and the lines so that you can do that however you wish. You can use a sketchy brush or a monoline brush or hand draw it. So there's lots of different things you can do, and you can space out your lines how you want them and all of that. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to need to do is think about the size. So do you want something that has enough space where you can sketch like on a wall calendar where you can sketch out specific things on some dates? I really like that. You can have just a little tiny month calendar over here, and then I have a whole bunch of sections for groceries and weekly topics and however. I'm not into planners, so I don't know all the things that planners can do, but you can have your pages laid out however you want. And then we're going to learn about Page Assist and how to get each page to just show up as one page, even though there are multiple layers in each of these pages. And so if I go to try to write on this, I'll show you what happens. So I have this group showing up because all of these layers are in this group, which is what is showing on this page. So I've labeled my layer that I want to use for writing on right here. So all I have to do is tap on it, and now I can write. I don't know what brush I'm on. Oh, I have the brushes that I'm giving to you today. So whatever brush you want to write with, and what color, you can do all your writing on that layer, and it won't interfere with anything else you have going on. So that is why I have that laid out like that. And that will be, you can cycle through the months really easily and do that each time. You can also access it over here in the layers menu. So with Page Assist, each group that you have is going to show up as a page. So no matter how many layers you have in that group, it can be super complicated. It's just going to show up as one page. And then you're going to want a right here layer. You're not going to want a whole bunch of layers. You really, once you get things refined, you can condense things and just merge things into fewer layers, because you're going to have groups for every single month plus any additional things you want to have. So it ends up being a lot of layers. If you have an iPad that can handle a lot of layers, then you can have just so much fun with layers. And honestly, I think that the next big Procreate update, we might not have to worry about layers so much. So just keep that in mind too. I think it's going to be a while before that big update comes though. And I'm not positive that I'm right about that. It is something that they've been hinting at. So kind of like in Procreate Dreams, we don't really have to worry about layers. All right. So thinking about the size, this is 15 inches by 10 inches. If you are limited on layers right now because of your iPad, it's based on the RAM that you have. You'll want to go smaller because it's using, I'm only using 3 layers per page, which isn't a ton, but if you have a more complicated version, it is going to add up. So you could do something more like 8 by 10, and I haven't counted how many layers, so I don't know how many layers you're going to want to actually have available when you create your canvas, but let's say 30 to be safe. All right. Oh yeah, so 36. So if we have 12 months, 3 each, so that's at least 36. So let's say 45 or 50 to be safe, because we have a cover page and we have a page at the end with all of the entire year. And then I have just a random doodly page, And if this is the 2024, but we're going to make 2025 since I'm publishing this class in October of 2024. So let's go ahead and get started with a brand new canvas. The brush set I'm using in this lesson is for newsletter subscribers. You can go sign up and grab that. You'll get a welcome email with a link to newsletter freebies and a password that's in the email. This is a separate password from, like if you have a password for my school, that is your own password. But this is a password just for newsletter subscribers. And that can be confusing to a lot of people, so I wanted to mention that. And the font that I've used here is called Sunday Mango, and I got it at fontspace.com, and it's free, and you'll want to grab that as well if you're using these stamps, because we're going to write things like notes, or you're going to write things if you have other categories that you're going to do. You'll want that, but I think everything else I've got stamps for. So grab that. If you don't want to do that, you can go to a lesson I will link in the description, older lesson that talks about making a like a little 3-month calendar for your wallpaper on your iPad, and I show you how to make basically the little months like this. I show you manually. If you are a member, I have a full class on making your calendars and doing these all very detailed. So that's for my membership. So there's a lot of calendar information out there that you can use. This is very tedious making these, so I did provide the stamps, but not everybody's going to like that font. So the calendar class and the older YouTube lesson here that I'll link in the description are for those that don't want to use my stamps. All right, and then you can use any font you want. So I think the first thing we're going to do is get our months together like this, and then we'll use those for the other pages. This is kind of an involved class just to get all 12 pages. So in this lesson, I am going to show you how to get this done, how to manage your page assist, and how to get 1 or 2 months done, and then you'll do the same techniques on all the other months, but I'm not going to go through the entire thing with you, and you'll be all set to go. All right, so I'm just going to go with 10 by 15. So I'm going to go to my gallery. I'll go out of that group there and tap the plus sign and the plus sign again. And I'm going to go to inches. You can do whatever dimensions you want. You can make it landscape, anything you want. For width, I'm doing 15. For height, I'm doing 10. At 300 dpi for high res, just to have things nice and clear. This is the other thing you can change if you're not getting very many layers. Let's say 50 layers. If you have less than 50 layers here, maybe change DPI to 200. Unless you're planning on printing something, don't do that. All right, and then I like to use this color profile right here under RGB. I don't ever plan on printing this particular thing, so display P3 might actually be a nice option for this because it's going to be way more vibrant. All right, well, not way more, but quite a bit. So there we have our calendar. I am going to turn my very bright white background down. I'm just going to use this Inspired by Bear Paint 2025 palette, which is in the freebies also, and it is one freebie earlier on the list with the crow illustration. So if you go get the freebies from that section of freebies, you'll get this palette. And I'm going to turn the background. So if you tap the layers menu and tap background, you can just pick a color for the background. I think I'm going to do something a little different than the other 2 calendars that I've made. So one of the things to think about is the art in the background. Well, let's avoid art since we're having a lot of letters on this particular planner, but patterns and swaths of color, you're going to want it to be either dark or light, like dark to medium or light to medium, and then you're going to have all the text be the opposite. So if you have a dark background, you're going to have lighter text like I just showed you earlier. If you have a light background, you're going to use darker text. If your background is dark and light, then you can't really pick a dark or light text to use for the grid, for the numbers, for your own writing. It's all going to be hidden and then exposed and hidden and exposed depending on where the light and dark background is. So I'm going to stick with light, and then I'm going to do dark for all the calendar and grid. So I'll just stick with this kind of medium gray for now, and we're going to get into the art a little bit later, but that's just something to think about. I'm going to add a few layers because that's just how I do it. And let's go ahead and think about our calendar. So I'm going to go to the wrench tool here and turn on the drawing guide. So I'm in Canvas and drawing guide. And I'm going to edit the drawing guide and just using my grid to approximate how I'm going to do like 3, 4. So 3 rows of 4 for my big full page calendar. So I can use this little middle dot and drag this around a little. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have 1, 2, 3. I could probably make this a little bigger. And this doesn't need to be approximate, or this doesn't need to be precise. And we're going to be coming back and adjusting this quite a lot. And if you didn't know this, you can tap on this and tap reset, and it goes right back to the center. Tap done. I'm going to turn my thickness and opacity up so we can see it well on camera. And you can change your line color up here. And I'm going to tap done. So I'll go ahead and choose, so I'm going to do dark text. You can change your color later with Alpha Lock. I will go ahead and choose this darker red for my text. I am going to split screen with my calendar app right here. So I can do it 2 ways. I can, if I've recently used the calendar app, it'll be down here, or I can tap here to go find it. There it is right there. Or I can tap these 3 dots. They just disappeared, but if I tap the screen, they come back. Tap the 3 dots, split view, and then it's letting me choose the app I want. I'm going to tap the calendar. I want that on the other side, so I'm going to tap those 3 dots and I think tap it again, tap left. There we go. And then you can also just take a screenshot of a calendar, which is what I've done before in a different class. But now I have my full year. I just moved to the year view, and I have my full year sliding up to 2025. And I can see that January has 31 days and it starts on a Wednesday. So here's where my stamps come into play. So here are my start days. So here's Wednesday start. So I'm going to tap it. I have all of these have these presets to different sizes, so you can be exact with your size choice. Let's see what size this is. That's pretty big, and that's a good size, and you can change the size also. So I'm going to do January right here, and I'm really just wanting to move these around by hand a little bit. This is probably going to be a little crowded, but I don't want to change the size till I have all 12 months there. It has 31 days, so I don't need to erase that. I told you you could change the color really easily. I can just go Alpha Lock and tap on maybe that next color up, tap on the layer again, and tap Fill Layer, and it just lightened it a little. So I like that. I'm going to go to this color now. It's a little bit lighter. So February, I am going to do a different layer for each one of these so I can move them around. February is a Saturday start, and it has 28 days. So I need to go to my brushes and go to the Saturday start. Tap it here. Oops, I'm going to go to my smaller size. Okay, so this is a good example. I'm glad we had this happen right here in February. Oh, I am erasing some of these, but March is going to do this, so I'll just wait till I get to March. Actually, March, look, it's also a Saturday start. So I'm going to go down here and do March really quick. So with March, I have 6 rows of numbers. So I need to make sure as I'm lining things up that I account for how some of the months are going to have 6 rows. So I'm getting my Sunday, Monday, Tuesday up here lined up with each other, and I can turn on snapping and I can try to get these super perfect, but I'm just going to eyeball it. These are all kind of crammed, and I think I'm going to shrink them later, but for now I'm just going to eyeball these. Back to February. So February is this one right here, I believe. I'm not used to only using half the screen here. I could squash this. Oh, and I still can see the whole year, so that's good. I just can't see the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday part. I can only see the numbers. So, and some of you might actually not prefer to start with the Sunday, and you'll have to figure that out, maybe make your own instead of use my stamps. Or you could still use the stamps for the numbers and then erase those. But if I go back here to February, I need to erase some. So I'm going to go to the monoline brush in my eraser and go down to calligraphy, monoline. I know I've adjusted mine so it looks a little bigger. And I just need to erase, or I can select whatever months, whatever days don't belong. Just be careful not to erase the wrong parts. All right, so January and March both also have 31 days, so those are okay. And I am going to go ahead and keep going with all 12. I know I don't have my January, February stamps on there yet, but I'm going to fast forward this part and keep going and getting all 12 of my months. I'm going to go back this way so I can see the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday part. I'll just go small. All right, and you can see that most of the days do have most of the months do have 31 days. And now I need to decide how big I want these to be. I'm going to select all of them, and this is why I waited. And notice I have it in order January, February, March, all the way down, so I can easily figure out the order. And I'm just going to shrink them. Oops, I'm on freeform, which is fine. You can shrink them with freeform as well. It means they will shrink possibly more this way or this way, whereas uniform, they're shrinking a little bit more precise, more perfectly. Okay, so I'm just looking at January, and now I am going to turn off my grid because it's really in my way here. All right, so now I can spend some time spacing things out. So I could take the bottom 4 like this, and I can bring them down. I could take the middle 4 and bring those down. And I can spend a whole bunch of time prepping every single 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm grabbing these 3. That was kind of tricky. I can spend a whole bunch of time prepping where I want all of these. So this is just my little way of moving 3 at a time. You can move 1 at a time. This part just doesn't matter. All right, so it's a little tedious. Takes a little time to figure it all out. It's not perfect, but it works for me. You can draw grid lines on there later. I'll show you how to draw the grid lines in a little bit. You could group them all together and make way for one side or the other to have the 2025. I'll show you how to do that really quick to do it down the side in case you don't know that about Procreate. So if I go to the wrench and go to add text, then I need to go to, I can tap this A here, and I need to go to my Sunday Mango font. Sunday Mango, right there. And I can type, I'm going to tap the keyboard right here. I can type 2025, tap W, 2025. So you can see that up there. I'm going to exit by tapping the brush and then tap one time in that box and go back to the A, and then this dot, 2 dots right here makes things go vertical. So that's all you need to do, and you can play with the size. You can play with the size just like this too. This is a vector format now right here. You're going to want to rasterize it once you have it there, just in case someday you get rid of that font. When you open this, if that font doesn't exist in Procreate, then that won't look like that anymore. So once you have that how you want it, you can tap rasterize. All right. And now, of course, we need our January, February, March, all of those. So I'm going to add a layer and go up here. This part, I haven't done this with stamps before, so you can do just like we did with this. If you have the font, you can just type them all out yourself. I am going to go ahead and go to the smaller size and just tap, and I think these are all going to be too big. So maybe, oh gosh. So this is another thing in Procreate. Can you tell my color has changed? So since I exited out of the font when I went into fonts here and I came back out, my color has changed. So this is the right color and this is a little brighter. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So if I tap and hold this and select it, and I tap and hold this and select it, you can see the top half is a little darker than the bottom half. The top half is the current selection and the bottom half is that color. So I'm going to clear and I'm going to select my color again. If that's super important to you that the colors be really accurate, just reselect your color. That's been a problem with Procreate for a while. I told them about it, but it must be a hard fix. All right, and if you don't want the full font, if you're using my stamps, anywhere in this whole project, if you don't want the full font and you want, the whole word, you can tap rectangle, the select and the rectangle, and maybe grab and remove and only use the abbreviation. I'm going to use the full one. I think I might even use it at that size. So since I'm happy with my 12 months here, I'm just going to merge those. I'm going to merge the 2025, I'm going to merge the 12 months, and now I'm back down to just having a new layer for each of my months now, making sure I go down to the smaller size. I'm going to try to get these where I want them. If you're really hurting for layers, you can keep merging and then just go to a new one. Go to March, go to the smaller size, get it where I want it, merge it. Go to new layer, go to April, go to the smaller size. Again, you can use different ways with the grid lines and everything to get things super precise. Go to the smaller size, merge, go to new layer, smaller size. All right, I'm going to fast forward. And merge. So I have everything on one layer for this, and you can still move things around. So just so you know, if you tap the selection, rectangle's easiest, but you can do freehand as well. I can grab December, for example, and I can adjust it. And usually moving things around with Procreate makes things a little fuzzier, but when you're just moving things vertically and horizontally, it does a really good job, even if you move it multiple times. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But if you really feel like it's looking too crowded, you can shrink things down and spread them out. You can grab the whole entire, leave 2025 alone and grab all of the months and shrink them like this. Maybe raise it up here. If you want any sort of room to write any little notes, I don't like leaving a lot of room on this page to write notes, only because it's more just like the year at a glance for me. So here I am just selecting, trying to make sure I'm not grabbing that 31, for example, trying to make sure I'm grabbing only the ones that I really want grabbed, and just spacing it out a little bit more like that. All right, so now is a good time to jump to doing a little bit of art. So I want to do a couple layers underneath this, and you're going to do this for each month. This is just the full year page, but this is going to be its own page, so I'm doing it for this as well, meaning I'm going to add some interesting colors and stuff underneath and patterns. So I'm going to leave a layer for some patterns, and I'm going down. Here's my layer with my calendar on it. And I'm going down 2 layers, and I'm just going to have fun with that monoline brush. So if you go back down, you can do anything you want, but this is just one idea. If you go to the monoline brush and you tap on it, and you go to properties and just make it bigger. If it doesn't get super big, go to stroke path and bump up spacing a little bit, and then you can go back down to properties and make the maximum bigger. If spacing is bigger, then you have a broader range for size here, so you can go back and forth. And now I can make this brush really big. So now I want to pick colors that are on the lighter side, and I need to pick an actual background color. So first, let's go down another color and pick a background color. Maybe it's going to be gray. I'll choose this middle gray and just drag and drop. That's pretty dark compared to my text, so I might go up to the lighter gray. And now I'm going to go up another layer, and I am going to have some fun with some lighter colors. Just don't worry too much about this. Ooh, I don't like that color though. And you don't have to stick to what I've got here. You can do whatever you want, and then you can go to the magic wand and go to Gaussian blur and blur it. That's really fun. And merge it with the gray once you're happy with it, and then go to the layer above that, and we're going to play with blend modes. So I am going to go to color burn, and actually, because I'm doing this the opposite of what I was doing before, where before I did all dark backgrounds and light text, so I used color burn because it added to the dark background. Now I might want to do a lighter pattern in the background, so I might go to overlay and use a white. If you're doing a darker background and lighter text, color burn with a medium gray is a good option, but overlay with white makes things lighter. So then I can come to a pattern brush. I gave you guys a lot of pattern brushes in the freebies, so if you don't have one, or many then go look through my freebies, and then I can just fill my whole screen. I know this is really busy, but I'm going to turn it down. And playing with blend modes is fun because it really interacts with that background. And I can turn it way down and just have it be really discreet. Hopefully you can see that on camera. Personally, I don't want things to look super bold and busy in the background, but I like to have a little bit of something. So that is good. I'm happy with that. I am going to merge these and see if that works. It definitely will not work if you don't have a solid color back here, a solid filled in layer like we filled with that gray, and then we added the blurred lines to it and merged those. If you just had the line layer and you tried to merge using this as your background, it won't work. Merging with the blend mode thing won't work. Some blend modes don't merge very well, so let's test this one. I think it'll be okay. So that worked. And only do that if you're super happy with your pattern. So you can come back and merge later if you want to think about your pattern, but you can also start over and do that whole layer over again if you change your mind. So that is my decorative layer for my full year 2025 calendar. So now I'm going to group those. I want those two layers to show up as one page once I turn on Page Assist. So I am going to group those. I'm going to label that group 2025 or full year. I'll label this one, you can label it whatever you want, text maybe. You can also alpha lock it so you don't accidentally draw on that. You can layer this one art or whatever you want, background, whatever you want. And then you're going to want to add a layer where you can write and call that write here or draw or something creative, whatever you want to call it, that will let you know that that's the layer you can write on. So you're done with that page. And now we're going to move on to doing a single month, and then you're going to get to do all your other months on your own. And we are going to use these stamps to do those months. So we've already done all the work to figure out how many days are in each month and which day of the week they start on. We only need the numbers. We don't need this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday up here for the other stuff we're about to do. But if you want to move forward with me for the next part of this lesson, you're probably going to want to get at least 1 month done. All right, let's keep going. So I've hopped back over to my finished one to show you what we made here. Now I have a grid on mine and my months are way smaller on this one, but here's what we just did. So I called mine background right here. I wrote year here, full year here, whatever you want to do. So that's that group. And you can see that my layers, my months, my January is at the bottom. I have a cover that's even below that. And that's because with Page Assist, when we turn that on, that's just the order it goes from. It goes from the bottom up. So just keep that in mind. And you can rearrange the groups later if you need to, if they're out of order. So don't worry about that. All right, for now I'm turning this off and I'm going to add some layers underneath. So I'm going to show you how to make the grid, and I'm going to use probably just the calligraphy section monoline brush again. Let me see if I can get it small enough. That's not small enough, so I am going to edit the brush and make sure I can go smaller by bringing down my minimum size here. There we go. I don't want the grid to be really in my face, so I can make some changes by having a thinner line, maybe a sketchier line using a pencil instead of the monoline. I can make the color or opacity changes to make it not be so bold, but for now I am going to make it very obvious for you. I'll go ahead and use this. I don't want this to look too Christmassy. I'll use this dark blue. That's pretty tiny still. I've almost made it too small. I'm going to make it a little bigger so you can see it on camera. Hopefully you can see that. But definitely think about how thick you're going to actually want that. So we're going to go back into the drawing guide. So go to the wrench tool, go to Canvas, turn on the drawing guide, edit drawing guide, and we're going to play with our grid size again. So we have 7 days of the week, so we need 7 columns, and we need 7 rows as well, because we want a gap at the top. We're going to have our grid start lower, and we want to have the potential for having 6 rows. We saw on some of our months that we had 6 rows of numbers. So we need the grid to have 7, at least 7 this way, and that's the direction I'm watching right now. I'm not going to make my grid perfectly square. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to go with 7. Move this around a little. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Still needs to be a little smaller. All right, that should be good. And I'm just kind of moving it over so I have this skinny little border here, this kind of edge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, I think that's good. I'm at 408 pixels for my grid size, And like I said, I am only doing my horizontal lines here. I'm only going to make my lines for this part going this way because I don't want my boxes to be perfect squares and I don't need that much space for my notes. So I'm thinking about all of that as I decide on this stuff. And I am going to turn my opacity on these down a little bit. Tap done. And you can turn the drawing assist on and off by tapping the layer and tapping drawing assist. So now I am only going to be able to draw in those directions. So that's good. It's going to really kind of make sure I am drawing straight lines. If you don't want perfectly straight lines, you can eyeball it. Don't turn on drawing assist and just eyeball your lines. Just kind of follow the grid lines and have it be way more hand-drawn looking. So here I am. I'm going to go to the bottom and I'm not going to worry about if I'm having them all perfect, right? Because I'm going to actually erase on this side. I am staying on the lines as much as I can on the grid line so that I know my spacing is even. Two finger tap to undo. And the top line. So this is making my grid that has 6 rows. Now I am thinking about, I want to clean up this side. So I'm going to tap the little magic wand and make sure I'm on rectangle. And I'm going to select this whole side, all the little ends of my lines over here. I'm going to just grab them and slide them right off. So now I'm all perfectly lined up over here. And now I want to think about how wide I want my columns. So I'm going to go back in and edit drawing guide and bump my size up. And now I'm looking at 7 columns. So lining them up with my edge of my lines that I already drew. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's pretty big. I don't have any room for notes or anything else. So I'm going to decrease my size here, move it over, line up that size. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That makes me end right here and gives me a little section for notes. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tap done. I am lined up with my edge of my column over here with my horizontal lines that I already drew. Tap done. And now I am going to draw, I'm going to just stay on this same layer and I'm going to draw my vertical lines. 1, 2. You're going to want to be a little bit more careful with these ones, or you could do them on a separate layer so you can edit them separately from your horizontal lines. And if you're going too slow, then the snapping will kick in. Did I do 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I did, so I'm going to undo. All right, and then I need to get rid of these spare lines over here in the same way that I did with the other ones. And this one's a little trickier. I'm going to go super close to that last line I did and get rid of those like that. And then I can come in here and I'm going to tap and hold on the eraser. Actually, I'm already on the monoline brush on the eraser. So now I can come in and carefully tidy up all of these little ends. I'm just erasing very carefully. So spend some time doing that. And you might have a better way of making a little grid. I think I'm okay. I would probably, before I keep going, because this is my final grid for all of the months. We don't have to keep doing this. We're just going to be duplicating this one. So make sure you've got it exactly how you want it. Filling in, I have a couple little gaps I can fill in. Oh, my sleeve just made me undo that little one over there. And go around and look at all of your edges. And then we have one more. We have to duplicate this one more time to make our little thing with only 5 rows. So most of the months have 5 rows. I'm going to turn my grid off because it's really in my way. All right, so here's my grid for having 6 rows of numbers. I can say 6 rows. Let's do 6 rows just so I know. And duplicate it, turn that one off. And we're going to change this one to 5 rows. So I'm on a duplicate. I have the 6 row one turned off. And I am going to grab with rectangle on and grab this bottom one as close as I can get to that bottom line and tap the arrow and slide it right off, and then come in and clean up these edges with the eraser just like you did before. Now's a good time also to make, if you want the outside border to be a thicker line or something like that. So make your grid exactly how you want them. I am keeping them in the same, I'm not moving them. I'm leaving this space down here so that as I cycle through all my pages, everything is lined up from here down. So this can be just extra space for you to do something with on the months that only use 5, which is quite a few of the months that use this 5 row one. So those are, let's alpha lock those, 2-finger swipe to the right. And those are just going to be used over and over and over. We're going to duplicate those. All right, so we're going to turn on one of our grids and we're going to keep going, finishing all of our setup, meaning our lines for our notes and our year and our days of the week. So your days of the week, you can type it out if you have the font, or you can use my stamps. Oh, while I'm still on monoline, I'm going to go ahead and add my grid lines here, or my lines for my notes. So I'm on a brand new layer. There's nothing on that layer. And I am still on the size of that I want for my lines. I'm on this size for my monoline brush. You can change colors at this point. And I'm going to turn on Drawing Assist. So I am forced to be making lines like this. And I'm going to turn my drawing guide back on. We actually go back in and out of the drawing guide quite a bit. And now I'm thinking about how wide I want those lines. And do I want them lined up, the first one with the top of my calendar, and whatever you want. Whatever you want. And then I can just come in and draw a whole bunch of lines. You can be really rough about where they start and stop because they're on their own layer, and we can edit that later. We can just like we did with the grid, we can select with rectangle and cut off any loose ends. Just make sure your lines are spaced how you want them. If you're doing a hand-drawn look for the whole thing, you might want to continue with that. You could try to just do a few of these lines and then duplicate and drag the duplicate down so you don't have to draw them all, but it's pretty quick. And you can keep going as far as you want. All right, and now I'm going to grab with rectangle, so select rectangle and just grab the ones off the ends. I don't want them to go all the way to the end, and I'm going to grab this side and give a little space between the calendar and the lines, and I'm going to slide off the excess, turn off my grid so I can see it better. All right, so if you want to keep going all the way down, if you want to, whatever you want to add, now's a good time to add to your full outline here, your full kind of template. I am going to add my days of the week. So I'm going to go ahead and alpha lock that so I know that there's something on there. You can label it too. And I'm going to go to a new layer and add my days of the week. So if you want your days of the week to be the stamps, go back up to the stamps and find your days of the week. Figure out what size you want them and stamp them, and you're going to have to decrease the size. So I would stamp them all the same size and then shrink them all at once. Or you can also type it out if you have the font. It might be easier for you to type it out. I'm going to abbreviate, so if I'm using the stamp, I'm going to just grab the day. I need to erase this little bit right here. I'm just going to use the abbreviation for each one of these. And I think I'll be doing them smaller as well. So if you're doing it with your text, so you can go to the wrench tool, add text. It should, since we did the 2025 and went to Sunday Mango, it already went to Sunday Mango, so that's nice. So I'm going to decrease the size and start typing. Sun. If I tap the spacebar twice too fast, it does a period, so I don't want to do that, but I can do 2 spaces slowly. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This is a nice way to get them to be perfectly horizontal. I'm going to need to make my box a little longer. Oh, there's the period. I'm not worried about the spacing. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. That was just to show you what you can do if you're using the stamps. All right, so I'm just looking at how big I have all of the letters, and my Thursday is the longest and it fits in the box. So I'm going to rasterize that. And now I'll show you, if you're moving things around precisely, if you grab something, tap the arrow, you can turn on magnetics. So you go to snapping and magnetics. And now I can make sure my blue bar goes across, and that keeps it perfectly horizontal. So magnetics is going to stay on now. And I'm just going to move each of these into place. Change the color if you want. I want to not stamp my January yet, but I am going to add a 2025 and figure out where this is going to be on every single page, so figure out where you want that. And I am going to add the word notes with a colon and have that be over here, wherever you want that. And we're really developing our template now. So we have room to write the month here, and that comes later as we do each month. But now we only have to do this one time. So let's see, I have my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, my 2025, and my notes, and my lines. I am going to merge all 4 of those layers, and that does rasterize everything. So it's all on this layer now, and it changed the name to probably the layer that was on the bottom. So part of my template is this grid, and that's this 5-row grid. But I also need all of these bits for my 6-row grid. So I am going to duplicate this layer. So I have 2, right? So I have 1 I can merge with my 5-row grid. I'm going to put it on top because when I merge these, it's going to keep the name of this layer. So turn the 5-row grid on. Make sure you have, I'm going to turn this one off. Make sure you have everything you want that doesn't include the month, and then merge those 2 layers. And now that's your template for your 5-row grid. I'm going to turn my 6-row grid on and my other one of all of those bits and pieces and bring it to the top of that layer because I don't want to have to rename the layer, and merge those. All right, so now we have our full template for our 6-row grid and our 5-row grid. And now we're ready to do January. So January, let's remind ourselves, January is starting on a Wednesday, has 31 days. So I could go to this layer. If this isn't too small, if it's a reasonable size for what I want to use, you can just copy it. I can just copy the numbers here. That's all I need. So I'm going to select my numbers, 3-finger swipe down, and tap copy. And now I can go turn that off and come down to a new layer and tap paste. I need to turn that off. Page Assist isn't on yet, so So you can't see through that layer, that group. So here I have paste. I have a 5-row grid that I need. So here's my 5-row grid. I'm going to duplicate it and bring one down and turn it on. So now I have my numbers. I can change the color and I can figure out exactly where I want them to go. I have magnetics still turned on and I'm lining up my columns. I'm lining up how tall, how high they need to be. I want my numbers to be in the top left corner. That's just what I'm used to. You can do whatever you want at this point. So I am looking at my number 1 starting on a Wednesday in the top left corner. But look, if you zoom in, 29 is a wider number and that's really close to this. The spacing this way doesn't matter right now. We're going to be sliding things down and over. But I want my column to look good. So that first column, I'm going to bump it over a little bit so my 29 isn't hugging that blue line so much. If this is too tiny, the copying and pasting, maybe you made your full page one really tiny, then you can just go back in and grab the Wednesday stamp again and make it bigger. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to clear that. I am going to go ahead and pick that color again just because. I'm going to get my Wednesday. Maybe I want to make it that medium size. I can grab all my days of the week up here and slide them right off or erase them. If that's how big I want my numbers to be, then this is what I'm going to work with to get my columns. I'm getting my number 1 on my Wednesday. 31 days is correct, so that's good. I'm making sure my 29 isn't hugging this blue line so much. This feels a little big to me. It's not going to give me enough room to draw in the box. So I am going to shrink it a little. I think it'll still be a little bigger than that other one that I was just trying out. All right, so I've got my first column lined up. Now magnetics is really important here. So I have selection. Magnetics was already turned on, so I'm going to grab columns and move them where they need to be. And I'm looking at the wider numbers again, making sure that my spacing is okay for everything, making sure my blue line for magnetics is keeping things horizontal. Grab this column over here. Looking at my 26. I'm not looking at anything else other than my columns. If I need to tap, I can do that. Just make sure you're directly across from that blue node. It's going to tap and shift in the direction that you're tapping. So, all right, and now I'm going to grab my rows and start bringing them down. Just eyeballing my spacing. And I guess this is just the lazy way to not have to type all the numbers. You can see my blue line. I need to make sure it's staying vertical now. All right, I think this is a little high, so I'm going to grab the top and there we go. Woohoo! We're done with that January, and now we just need a January label up there. So you can come find January and figure out the size. Go ahead and stamp it. It's on the same layer as your numbers. So if you want to move it, you're going to have to grab it and move it around, whatever you want to do. Once you're happy with the colors and the layout and all of it, you are going to want to merge those. Remember, you had a template up here, and this is a duplicate, so that's why I can merge it. So I'm going to merge all of those. Remember, at any time, if you decide to change the colors, you can alpha lock and change the colors. So you could have different colors for every month. You could have all the numbers and grids and everything be whatever colors you want them to be. All right, so for January now, I need a couple rows underneath. I'm going to do a solid fill. Let's do light blue. Oof, I do not like that. So color choices are going to be something that takes you probably quite a long time to do. And I'm just going to show you January though. So let's see, I'll do a lighter pink and go back to monoline. And I have a monoline in my favorite category, so I can get to it more easily. And do some more fun stuff. I'm veering off of my colors now. Blur it. Make sure you can still see everything. Make sure you're happy with it. Merge. Add another layer. I play with blend modes. Play with whatever you want to do for your patterns here, or whatever. You don't have to do patterns, obviously. And choose a light color. And I have a whole thing of patterns. You can choose a pattern that seems like a seasonal thing for whatever season, whatever month you're doing. Flowers in spring and whatnot. Fill the whole page, do whatever you want, decrease the opacity, make sure that it is subtle enough that it's not going to be too busy with your actual calendar itself, and merge. All right, so now I'm going to label that background. I'm going to label this January maybe. I am going to add another layer above it and label it right here. And I'm going to group those 3 layers. Group. Then I'm going to label my group January 2025. How about that? So now that is all 1 month. You're going to do that for every month. So it's a little time consuming. So make sure you really love how you have the color choices and everything, because you're not going to want to spend so much time getting to the end and realizing, I'm not really a big fan of these colors. Now I can choose any dark color to write on this because I've got light in my background. I showed you the opposite where you have a dark background and light on top. And now let's move on to Page Assist. So once you have everything, you can probably drag and drop. If you really want to just keep these 2 rows or you don't want to make those again every year, you can maybe drag and drop them to a different canvas and get rid of them. I'm going to keep those and just show you what Page Assist is like. So, and you can do the same thing for a cover image. Just make sure a whole group is, everything you want to show up on a one page is in a group. And then when you turn on Page Assist, you go to the wrench tool and go to Canvas and turn on Page Assist. So it's only going to show you the layers that are turned on. So if I turn on my 2025, remember earlier how when that group was on, it blocked anything that was under it? It doesn't work that way with Page Assist. The only thing that's showing up is the thing that is selected. I had my layer on turned off. So if this is the group that's selected, that's what you're seeing. If this is the group that's selected, that's what you're seeing. And you're going to want to have it go January, February, March, April, May, right? You're going to want to have all your months go from bottom to top. I'm going to turn these off. So now I have January. Your layers do not need to be open. You can toggle just down here between all of your months really easily. Tap on it, choose the right here layer, figure out what color you want and what brush you want to write with, and make your notes. So what I like about using Procreate for a planner is I can angle my page here and I can say Mom's birthday, right? That is not my mom's birthday, but I can do that. And then maybe I can just go to full, what did I say that was? January 23rd. I can go to the full page and go right here and circle January 23rd to let me know that something's happening on that day, and then I can go find January and see. I can have a page with just ideas. Just do the same thing that we just did with January, having groups of all the different layers that you need grouped together, and it will show up as one page. And as I'm looking at this, I'm really feeling like I'm not seeing the text very well. I just want to show you an option for your backgrounds. You can always select it and go into the magic wand, hue, saturation, brightness, and brighten it a little, maybe desaturate it a little. You can make adjustments to any of that. So let's just take a look at a completed one really quick. So again, here's my completed one. I did not use. I'm a hopeful planner. I keep it all in my phone. But I really liked the idea of doing this. I really do want to get into the habit of doing this, where I can write out what I've done in my community each month and plan ahead and things like that. So I really love this. Here I have the year over onto this side of the page. You can just have it set up however you want. Any font you want. Again, I'll link to the YouTube video that shows how to do a little monthly calendar. It's for a wallpaper screen for your iPad, but you would use those same tips to make a full year like this. If you don't want to use my stamps. And then you can use any font you want. But again, if you're in my membership, I have way more calendar information that will be more useful, and but no stamps. So even if you're in my membership and you want to use my stamps that I just showed you in this lesson, you'll want to go get those from my newsletter freebies. Oh, and I do have this stamp that shows 2025 through 2030. And let me show you how I intended to use that really quick. So how I intended to use the 2025 stamp, I'm just going to add a layer here and choose the color. I was thinking you could just stamp really big, and whatever year it is, because of course you might be watching this in the future, whatever year it is, which kind of freaked me out, this 2023, I can just cut and paste, and that cuts it onto a new layer, and then I can delete the rest of it, right? So now I can use that stamp up here instead of having to type it out. So you just can cut the year out that you need, depending on what year that you're doing this. And make sure you also go find that font if you want. And Font Space Sunday Mango. It is a free use font. It was, at least at the time of this recording. Hopefully you can still get it. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and include that font in my freebies, so that eliminates that problem. If that website goes away or that font goes away, you'll still be able to get that font. All right, have fun.